Alright, hell yeah. So this series is Will It R1. You know what I mean? Alright, hell yeah. So let's get into this video. This is kind of interesting. So this is my boat. And, you know what I mean? It's a boat that is no longer made. And NRS made it, 15 years ago. But it's just kind of interesting because it has really good properties. We're going to look at that. So what I wanted to do today was just modify my Fat Cat, because why not? I have the opportunity to, like, let's say I spent, let's go back to that footage. Let's say I spent like a month trying to make a boat like this, and then took it to the water and been like, whoops, that's not what you want. It was kind of interesting, and it was just kind of interesting that maybe you can do some like different play boating style things. That's what I was also looking for, is just like, how do you turn an R1 raft into a play boat? But this video is kind of going to be more of like, why does this boat glide so well? And so one is that the floor is a little bit protruded. Two is the side beam tubes, or the side tubes. So let's take a look at this. The side tubes are elevated. So like right here, there is air underneath here, and then you have, and I've done the dimensions of this raft, and it's not, the floor is not protruded very much, but it's enough where you do get, some of these interesting properties. But I mean, I'm just actually shocked of how glidey this boat is. And again, this is just to progress the future of R1 boat design from like the comfort of my own home. I have a lake to work with, and I'm even going to modify my boat, to see if like, hey, we're going to deflate one of the tubes and just kind of see what aspects. Now, the other thing, my pump did not work today, and so I wasn't able to pump up this tube very much. So, maybe it's just like taking in too much water, like the water line looks really low. And if it's yeah, so that's kind of what I'm feeling today. I actually didn't have a good enough pump. Like, we hardly have any PSI in, and so just from that side view, it's kind of dragging through the water. Now this one, I was able to get pumped up a little bit more, and so yeah, just kind of squishing the two tubes together. Now what I notice is like, hey, it seems fairly fast enough, but when I'm trying to, yeah, it's kind of interesting. But I think one aspect of R1 boating is being able to spin like a top underneath the boat. So that's one aspect where it's just like, hey, if I want to go over there, I want to spin the boat and then move that direction. Where having a rocker underneath the boat and kind of like an omnidirectional like design underneath the boat. I mean, a kayak is omnidirectional. I mean, it's longer, sure, but it also does have side-to-side rocker throughout, and it even has, diagonal. If you take a cross-section of a diagonal, you're still getting a sweeping arc. And so, hell yeah, this is just kind of the upside-down view. Anyway, I'm going to do the same thing with my boat, and just kind of figure out what things can create. I mean, because, like, let's look at this. I mean, it looks like my boat's pushing into the water. I don't know. I'm just trying to actually figure out why, like, and I might be biased because I know what paddle strokes are going to go through what waves in this boat. I do not know what paddle strokes are going to go through what waves in a paddle cat. You know what I mean? And so a paddle cat, you have grip here and on the other side, and so your trajectory is more straight. We talked about how it is difficult to turn. Now that's going to be highly beneficial in a lot of rapids where you're just crushing. But it's just kind of interesting, like for whatever reason, like I'm more mindset where I want to be able to turn the boat instantly and then start paddling over there. And if you think about it, like if we do have a paddle cat and we have frame and oars on it, your oars are going to be so far out on the side that you're able to turn on a dime. But with an R1 paddle stroke, sweeping strokes, only the forward sweep is actually a very strong stroke. The back sweep is really hard on the joints, and it's a very weak stroke. That's why R1 boating, we rely on a pry. And so that's kind of the, we'll watch this, or let's just go kind of to this last little chunk of footage, because here's where, we deflate this, but here's where I kind of talk about how let's see. Oh yeah, because with R1 boating, I do have boat over here. And so when you paddle forward on this side, you have a tendency to want to go this direction. So the aerodynamics of a boat, has to have some sort of aerodynamics in this, like, 35 degree, 30 degree, even 15 degree zone could be beneficial. I mean, for my taste. And so what else? Let's see. I was going to say something about this. Oh, yeah. And then so when I'm paddling, so a forward stroke takes me at this 35, but let's say I pry right here, that also brings the boat in this direction. So both the paddle and pry are getting the boat to motor this way. If all you had was like a short paddle and then a quick pry, you would literally be motoring the boat in this direction. So the aerodynamics of an R1 boat in this 35 degree angle is super important. And I think that's where the omnidirectional design, and so we can kind of take a look at, I don't know if I just go up onto edge. Well, yeah, let's take a look at this. We're almost done with this video, but so like even like right here, there is rocker from here to there, and I notice this a lot where if I'm trying to paddle this direct, that's why I'm not a big fan of the R1 draw. I have kind of modified it to my liking, but if I sat onto this tube and started drawing this way, I'm literally pushing like bucket loads of water out of displacing. But having these nice sloped angles gives you an opportunity to glide up and over that. And it's just so fascinating because I wouldn't expect that I'm getting sideways glide from such a short profile. That's why I was first thinking is like, you don't need a large boat. Like a pack raft has super good, and that's why I was actually kind of shocked from this video that even just taking the Fat Cat and shoving it into 2, or just halving the Fat Cat, I didn't get any sort of extra glide ability. You know what I mean? And so, but yeah. And again, I apologize if I'm taking boats and burning bridges or anything like that, but I just I'm gonna do the same thing with mine, and you know what I mean. And like I said, I'm on an armchair. I'm on a sofa doing this, but I have access to a lake. I'm hours away from good whitewater, and so I still want to contribute to the community. Like even if I was just paddling on a lake for the rest of my life, I still consider R1 boating. And so that's where we're going to try to figure out why the dynamics of this are good. But like I said, it doesn't really matter. Like, it doesn't matter to me who makes these boats. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to be the physicist here and show you from an objective position maybe what's going on. Because R1 boating, still, I'm just going to say that R1 boats are not designed for R1ing. I would say there's two, like RMR and Sotar are making like the Thundercloud and the Merlin series. I think those two are probably the best round boats for R1ing on the market, or they're actually designed with R1 athletes in mind and R1 athletes paddling those two boats. And so from that perspective, that's where I have no brand loyalty, because I can't sell boats. You know what I mean? I haven't gotten a t-shirt from NRS from paddling this. You know what I mean? So, because there's no boats to sell. But if NRS made this boat, hell yeah, I could sell the hell out of it because it's a magical design. I seriously think, life is coincidental. But the fact that it's fascinating. I don't know. I'm not a very frugal person and kind of get a lot of help and stuff. But this boat was very interesting because I was working at this ski hill, and I was just like, hell yeah, let's go to the food bank for like a whole, like 6 months, and eat just food bank food, you know what I mean, for 6 months and save some money. And this boat popped into NRS's window as a used boat. It was $1,300, like, because it was $1,000. I don't know. It was just a demo. It was almost brand new, but I don't know. So it's such a dumb story, you know what I mean, saying coincidences and all this woo-woo BS. But anyway, I think that's really cool, and it's just bizarre, and also not cool that they're no longer make it. So that's why I'm just like, it's crazy that R1, like I would say we're 2 decades into R1ing, And I just don't want the next decade. And yeah, so just kind of, I got motivated, you know, talking to the other R1 athletes out there to be like, hell yeah, you know, maybe we can get over the hump and make R1 a thing where it's not just the same thing decade after decade, where, you know what I mean, where R1 can be established on rivers and you can show what's possible. And like I said, I'm not a big boater, you know what I mean? I do enjoy it, but I boat solo, and so I just surf a wave. If the wave was better, we could be doing bigger things, but I'm just 2 hours away from my little surf spot. Alright, so hell yeah, we're going to finish this awful video with just me talking about how you want boat over here, and see how that goes. Alright, thanks for joining me. Booyah.
If there's no boat over there, like R1 boating, you need a substantial amount of boat, like right there, ready to catch, like go that way. So it's like it's asymmetric, because when I paddle this way, I'm paddling towards you, and when I pry, I'm coming towards you. So my boat works pretty much at a 35 to 45 degrees, where a boat that's like this, you know, whatever this is, still like it wants to go this way and track this way, but it just really has a hard time returning this way. So that's, for whatever reason, my boat is just real easy at turning that way. And so now I have paddled an inner tube, and that thing don't work. You know, I mean, you can go this way and you can go that way, but that's the one thing I notice that I'm just gonna say that I dislike the most if I'm in a boat and I can't pry very fast this way, because that's half the game of R1 rafting. And so if I'm trying to go that direction, I just want this to almost be effortless. If that is effortless, then it just sets you up. And it's a balance. It's a balance between your boat spinning and trying to actually go somewhere. But yeah, so definitely being able to... And that spin, that's so interesting. It must have to come right underneath the boat. So, and I get it. That's why, like, I'm just wondering. I've never gotten to paddle some of the Cataract style rafts, but it's got to be the same thing where you can't pry it this way because you just have two things in the water. Now it's different than a Cataract where you can just do this and that easily. But I mean, like this, that'll turn the boat, or put it this way. Like my forward paddle stroke, that'll turn, but what you need, you can't do this R1ing. There's no arm strength, and I think this is almost probably real dangerous to do like out to the side paddle strokes. It just feels hella awful, where all your juice comes from this motion right here, and just think about it. In a Cataract, you can't just put your blade in right here, right next to the boat, and expect it to turn on a dime. You have to throw your huge oars out and do that motion. So I think that is, from just a dynamics perspective, like I don't care what company or what boat it is, like I'm just saying, if I put myself, like what do I want to feel? That's what I'm experimenting with. And after tonight, it's that. It's that this 45 is real important. And even, I'll have to look at my boat and just pump up the floor and nothing else, and then just pump up a tube in the floor, you know what I mean? Do the same thing I'm doing with this to see where the dynamics come from. Because I don't think it's obvious. I mean, because even just a long thing, and I just feel like it doesn't feel fast at all. And so it's just interesting, and it comes from the fact that you're paddling on one side, and I don't know, not really, because a canoe will track. So I don't know, back to the drawing board. But that's what I got for tonight. Thanks for joining me, and that's a video.